YouTube viewers, Rectangular back, this time with another review. As you can see here, we have the 2013 San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Luke Cage from the Thunderbolts box set. And I was able to get the actual set, but I was a little paranoid about the paint applications, how it was going to turn out on the Luke Cage in particular, because this is the figure I needed for my collection. The others are nice to have, but I really need a modern Luke Cage to go with my Secret Invasion setup, which is going to be my main display. So I went ahead and snagged this one off eBay, and right now he's going for the least expensive one I saw was about, I think, $40 shipped, but on average you're going to pay between $55 and $60. So yeah, I paid more than I wanted to, but basically you just never know how hard these things are going to be to find and how much they're going to go up in price. So I figured it's more than I wanted to spend, but I had to have him. So anyway, ShartimusPrime already did a really good review of this guy, and sorry about the echo. My normal review spot is full of ACBA stuff right now, so I'm out here in the kitchen doing this. It's a pretty nice figure. As you may already know, he is based off of the Hyperion body mold, which isn't a bad mold, but it's not without its issues. When I was concerned about the paint apps, I did notice, sorry about hitting the camera there, I did notice that some of the figures that I saw loose online were having issues with the neck. The paint on the neck was very inconsistent. It wasn't a straight line. This one is pretty damn good. The ones I saw were kind of jagged. The yellow was kind of all over the place. But this one looks good. It's a pretty straight line all the way around. It does have a few minor issues. There's some extra plastic there on the neck disc, which isn't too bad. And let's see, I'm trying to think. It's a little bit light. I don't know if you can see there. There's a kind of a dark spot, but for the most part the yellow is pretty damn good on this one. And that was what I was most concerned with, because yellow is really hard to touch up on figures when you like, especially if you're making a custom. This one's pretty good. I think Shartimus, the goatee did not come down very far on his, so happy to see that this one's pretty decent. Don't know how comic accurate that is, but the eyes seem to look good there. And we're going to get into comparison of the sculpt here in a minute, but I just wanted to show the figure itself. I noticed that pretty much all the figures seem to have this dent in their head. That's probably where the mold was for the head sculpt. And I don't know if you can see that on his neck. There's some paint missing there, so hopefully I can match that paint and touch it up fairly well. I did want to mention that I think it's a smart move that Hasbro did to make to go with a yellow plastic. I think on the Hyperion it's actually, yeah, it's a red plastic, but on this one they chose a yellow plastic, which is really smart. Like I said, yellow tends to show up, flaws in yellow paint tend to show up really well, and it tends to, I think it tends to flake quite a bit, so I'm glad they went with a yellow plastic. And then they actually went over with a darker yellow paint on top of it to add some shading. So it's kind of hard to see on camera, but it is a little bit more towards the orange as far as the extra paint that was added to the to the plastic, which is yellow. And a lot of people were going to complain about having 2 peg holes in the back. And I agree, it's not very attractive, but I think, you know, obviously they want to save money, and I also think that a lot of people have been complaining that we're not getting peg holes in the back of figures anymore. So, you know, really what they should have done is just found a way. They should have just modified an existing sculpt mold for Hyperion with just one of the pegs. I don't know which one would be better, the large one or the small one, but whichever one would accommodate a flight stand. I'm guessing probably the larger of the two. But you know, Luke's doesn't fly, so I don't know. I think it probably would have been better off just to fill the entire thing, or just have one. I'm not going to bitch too much about it because I can actually fill it in with some epoxy sculpt and some paint if it really bothers me. But I like the fact that they went with a yellow plastic, because you know, when you do move the arms, if they had gone with a dark brown plastic, when you move the arms, it's going to scrape off, and that I don't want. So I'd much rather have a yellow plastic and have stuff like this where you can see yellow underneath and be able to touch that up, because this is not a moving part, whereas the disc in the arms is going to be moved quite a bit every time you move the figure. So I'm glad they went in that route. Like Shartimus showed before, his articulation is, he does have double jointed elbows, just like Hyperion, but the sculpt of the armbands is really going to impede that, so he can't get not even a complete 90 degree, almost probably 85 degrees on that arm there. The Thunderbolts logo looks really good on, I think, both of my shoulders. That's spot on. Very, very well done there. And as far as the armbands, the paint looks really good on the stripes. There's only a tiny bit of silver exposed there, but overall, very happy with that. Let's take a look at the other side. It does have some nice different shades of black and silver and blue all mixed together, so I think that turned out really well. That new guy they have doing all their paint has really made a huge improvement, I think. Now you can see that the plastic is yellow, and then it's obviously got the brown for his flesh painted over that, and then the peg is black inside. It's a little bit distracting, you know, it's going into brown, but I think you can always just slap some brown paint over it, and it won't be nearly as noticeable. And I say that because, you know, I can paint. Not everybody can, but I don't think that would be too difficult to do for the average person. He's, you know, does have a really nice ab crunch, just like Hyperion. Mine's actually really stiff, which is nice. And then he goes all the way back, which is really good. Head, again, on the same disc and peg that Hyperion is on. And like I said, it is going to be yellow, so the more you move it, the more chance you're going to have to expose the yellow, to have the brown paint scrape off. And he does have a waist swivel, but you have to kind of move, you have to slide the belt down so that the articulation can clear the belt. You can see that, which is nice. I'm glad that they didn't try to just glue this on and then have the articulation scrape or bend or bang up the belt. They actually made it movable, which is really nice. You can hide that whole you know, piece of the articulation, which is very cool. I think one of mine, yeah, the left leg is really difficult to rotate on this one, but I'd much rather have it stiff than too loose. I did just stick him in the freezer for a little while because it's almost 100 degrees here, and he was in that hot mailbox all day, and didn't want his joints to break. So double jointed knees. That's a good trick for anybody, especially if you live in a really hot area. If your figure's been sitting in the mailbox, just stick them in the freezer for a little while before you handle them, just so that the joint, you won't actually pull an arm out of the socket because they'll get really rubbery. And the joints I was worried about was the shins here. It looks like it works really well. This side is a little bit more rubbery, but it is a pretty soft plastic, so that would be my biggest concern, is if the figure's too warm and you rotate this, it could just basically tear. You could just tear his foot right off. So I'm a little hesitant still to rotate it all the way. I'm just going to leave it like that, and he does have really nice ankle pivot articulation, just like Hyperion. As far as the boots go, he does have, they are black plastic. I'll let my camera catch up with me and focus here. There we go. They are black plastic with the silver blue painted on the detail areas, and I did notice on some people's figures that they were selling online that some of them had some issues, but mine look pretty good. The top of the boot is still black, and sometimes the line, sometimes it's either over the top of the boot and sometimes it's not. So that, it's not too bad. I'd rather have more paint than not enough, actually, because when you rotate it, it's just going to scrape off anyway. But yeah, those look good. I don't notice any major issues with the boots. It does get a little bit thick there where the lines come together, but I'm not really going to slight them for that. Oh, in the back here, the mold is a little bit wobbly. You can see how the two lines don't quite line up. Other than that, I'm just nitpicking, really. There's a little bit of darkness there on the cuff, but overall, paint on this one turned out well. Now let's get into comparison with Hyperion, which this figure is based on. Here he is. Now, first thing I noticed, one of the first things I noticed when people were showing close-ups of this figure is the head sculpts look extremely the same. If you compare these guys, look at the eyebrows. They pretty much have the same raised eyebrow. Obviously, Luke's hair was black and Hyperion's red. But they do have different noses, so it is a different head sculpt. I think maybe they might have started off with a Hyperion and they just modified it. They have similar profiles, but Hyperion's head does slope back farther, forehead, and the nose is definitely different. So I thought maybe that they were the same. And Hyperion's chin, similar but not the same. I think maybe I'm thinking maybe they did start off with Hyperion and then modified it, but I don't know enough about molds and sculpting to tell you the truth. Pretty similar in size, but man, they really screwed up on the eyes on Hyperion. He's got those crazy bird eyes. They did a really good job on Luke, though. Very happy with that. Alright, I think that's as far as comparing these two. The boots on mine are much looser than Luke, so kind of glad that they fix that. And let's go ahead and compare him with a couple of other figures. He is kind of difficult to stand up sometimes. I'm going to go ahead and pause the camera and get these other guys in the shot. So here we've got some other figures for size comparison. Right next to Luke we have the pile driver, which all of the other members of the wrecking crew are going to be based on that mold. And you can see he's pretty significantly shorter than pile driver there. They put them back to back. And the new Thor is the same size, different mold, but they are the same, about the same height and about the same girth. And right next to the new Thunderbolts Luke, we have the classic Luke Cage from Toy Biz, and about the same height. I think maybe mine's got his knees bent just a tiny bit, but pretty similar in height there. If I can get his knee come down a little bit more. But yeah, I'm glad that I thought maybe he was going to be much bigger. And last of all, we have the new modern age Iron Man, which apparently, according to folks at Hasbro, is going to be the new body mold for all Iron Man figures from now on, since everybody was complaining that all the previous versions were too small, which I would have to agree. So there you go for comparison. Luke does tower over Iron Man just a bit, which he should. So yeah, I think scale wise he turned out really well. I think Hyperion was a great body mold to go with. So there we go. Hopefully you guys liked the video. Please leave a comment below. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And yeah, thanks for watching. Talk to you guys later. Bye.